Jazz. Part 1A. The silence before the storm. People think betrayal begins the day the truth comes out. They're wrong. Betrayal begins with tiny moments that seem too small to matter. A delayed reply, Jazz, a forced smile, a phone turned face down on the table. By the time you finally see the truth, your heart has already been breaking for months. My name is Emma Carter, Jazz, and if you had met me 3 years ago, you would have said I had the perfect life. I believed that too. I had a husband who kissed me every morning before work, Jazz. We owned a beautiful home with white walls, a small garden, and a wooden porch where we spent Sunday evenings drinking coffee together. We weren't rich, Jazz, but we had enough to smile without worrying about tomorrow. Or at least that's what I thought. Daniel had a way of making everyone like him. He remembered birthdays. He held doors open for strangers, Jazz. He laughed easily, spoke kindly, and knew exactly what people wanted to hear. Everyone admired him, including me. When people asked how we met, I always smiled. It was raining, I would say, Jazz. We had reached for the same umbrella outside a bookstore. We laughed, shared a taxi, and talked for 2 hours before either of us noticed how late it had become. It felt like fate. 5 years later, Jazz. We were married for a long time. I believed I was the luckiest woman alive. I worked from home as a freelance graphic designer. Daniel managed sales for a growing company across town, Jazz. Our schedules were different, but every evening we found time for dinner together. That routine became the safest part of my day, until it slowly disappeared. At first, it was little things. Jazz, I'm working late tonight. We have another client meeting. I'll eat when I get home. Perfectly reasonable. Life gets busy. I never questioned him. Why would I, Jazz? Trust isn't something you think about when it's still alive. One evening, I prepared his favorite pasta. By 7 o'clock, it was getting cold. By 8, the candles had burned halfway down. Jazz, at 9 my phone buzzed. Sorry. Big meeting, don't wait up. I stared at the message, no apology, no explanation. Just 8 words, something about them felt empty, Jazz. I told myself I was overthinking. The next morning, Daniel acted as though nothing had happened. He kissed my forehead. Morning, beautiful. I smiled back, but for the first time in our marriage, Jazz. My smile took effort. Weeks passed. Late nights became normal. Weekend meetings appeared out of nowhere. Business trips started happening almost every month. Whenever I asked if everything was okay, Jazz, Daniel answered before I even finished the question. Work's just crazy right now. He always sounded convincing, too convincing. One Saturday afternoon, my best friend Sarah stopped by with coffee. Jazz, she had known me since college. She could read my face better than anyone. You look tired, she said. I'm fine. No, you're pretending. I laughed. Since when did you become a detective, Jazz? She leaned back in her chair. Since your fake smile stopped fooling me. For a moment, I considered telling her everything. The lonely dinners, the unanswered calls, Jazz, the feeling that my own husband was becoming a stranger. Instead, I shrugged. He's just busy. Sarah stirred her coffee slowly. Maybe. The word hung in the air, maybe. It wasn't an accusation, Jazz. It wasn't advice. It was simply enough to plant a seed I wasn't ready to water. That night, Daniel came home carrying flowers, bright white lilies. My favorite, I whispered. I know, Jazz. He hugged me tightly, almost too tightly. It felt less like love, and more like someone trying to erase guilt. I hated myself for thinking that. People don't suspect the ones they love, Jazz. Not unless something inside them already knows. Days turned into months. The distance between us grew without either of us saying it aloud. We still lived in the same house, but somehow, Jazz, we no longer shared the same life. One evening, while folding laundry, Daniel's phone lit up on the kitchen counter. I wasn't trying to look, it simply happened, Gaz. The screen flashed with a notification. I miss you already. No name, just a number. Before I could even process what I'd seen, Daniel rushed into the room. Gaz. He grabbed the phone so quickly it almost slipped from his hand. Work, he said. His answer came too fast. I hadn't even asked. He forced a laugh. Clients never stop texting. I nodded. Gaz. But something inside me stayed perfectly still. That message didn't sound like work. It sounded personal. Very personal. That night, I barely slept. Every time Daniel moved beside me, Gaz. I opened my eyes. I watched the ceiling until sunrise. The next morning, I made breakfast. Eggs toss. Coffee, everything looked normal. Everything felt wrong. Gaz. Daniel glanced at his watch every few minutes. You seem nervous, I said casually. Nervous? You've checked the time 6 times. He smiled. Big presentation. Then he stood, kissed my cheek. Gaz. Grabbed his briefcase and left. The front door closed. Silence filled the house. For several minutes, I simply stood there, looking at the untouched breakfast, listening to the quiet. Gaz. Then something happened that changed everything. Daniel had forgotten his tablet. It was still lying on the dining room chair. I picked it up instinctively. Gaz. I only wanted to take it to his office before he realized. But as I lifted it, the screen lit up. No password. Just one incoming message. A photo appeared before I had time to look away. Gaz. It wasn't a client. It wasn't a meeting. It was a smiling woman standing beside Daniel. His arm was around her waist. They looked comfortable, happy. Gaz. Like 2 people who had taken that picture 100 times before. Below the image were 6 words that froze the air around me. Can't wait to see you tonight. In that moment, every late meeting, Gaz. Every missed dinner. Every strange excuse. Every forced smile. Suddenly fit together like pieces of a puzzle I had never wanted to solve. My hands began to shake. My breathing grew shallow. Gaz. I wanted to believe there had to be another explanation. There had to be. But deep inside, the silence I'd been living with for months finally found its voice. Gaz. And it whispered one terrifying truth. My husband had been living 2 completely different lives. The question was no longer if he was hiding something. The real question was, Gaz, how much of my life had been a lie? The tablet felt heavier than it should have, as if the truth itself had weight. My hands trembled while I stared at the picture. Daniel was smiling. Gaz. Not the polite smile he gave strangers. Not the tired smile he gave me after another late meeting. This was different. This was the smile I hadn't seen in months. Gaz. The message beneath the photo stayed on the screen. Can't wait to see you tonight. I blinked, hoping the words would somehow change. They didn't. My first thought wasn't anger, it was denial. Gaz. Maybe she was a co-worker. Maybe the picture had been taken at a company event, maybe. But my heart already knew what my mind refused to accept. Gaz. I placed the tablet back on the chair exactly where I had found it. Then I walked to the kitchen sink and splashed cold water on my face. When I looked into the mirror, Gaz, I barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked scared, confused, and somehow embarrassed. Gaz, how could everyone else think I had the perfect marriage, while I had no idea what was happening inside my own home? My phone buzzed. It was Daniel. Hey, sweetheart, he said cheerfully. Gaz, I forgot my tablet. Could you leave it on the dining table? I'll grab it after work. After work the same evening, he was apparently planning to meet someone else. Of course, I replied. Gaz, forcing my voice to sound normal. You okay? I'm just a little tired. You should get some rest. His concern sounded so real that for a second I almost believed it. Almost. We ended the call. Gaz. The silence returned. This time it felt different. It wasn't peaceful anymore. It was warning me. I spent the rest of the morning trying to work, but I couldn't focus. Jazz. Every design I started looked wrong. Every color reminded me of that photograph. By noon, I gave up. Instead, I opened an old photo album from the bookshelf. There we were on our honeymoon, Jazz, laughing on a beach, holding hands during a mountain hike, making silly faces in front of a tiny cafe in Italy. Each picture told the story of two people deeply in love, or at least, Jazz, that's what I had believed. A single tear landed on one of the photographs. I quickly wiped it away. No, I whispered to myself. I need answers, not tears. That afternoon, Sarah called. Jazz, you sound strange, she said the moment I answered. I found something. What kind of something? I hesitated. Then I told her about the photo, the message, the woman, Jazz. Sarah stayed quiet for several seconds. Finally, she spoke. Emma, don't confront him yet. Why not? Because if he's lying, he'll just tell another lie. Her words settled heavily in my mind. Jazz. So what do? You learn the truth first. The truth, it sounded simple. But where do you even begin when your whole life suddenly feels fake? That evening, Jazz, I acted as though nothing had happened. Daniel came home carrying takeout from my favorite restaurant. I thought we'd have a quiet night together, he said with a warm smile. I watched him carefully, Jazz, every movement, every word. He laughed at a joke on television. He asked about my work. He complimented my hair, Jazz. Anyone watching us would have believed we were the happiest couple in the neighborhood. Only I knew something was missing. Honesty. Halfway through dinner, his phone buzzed. Jazz. He looked down for only a second. Then he turned the screen over, too quickly. Everything okay? I asked. Just work. Again, always work. I smiled. Your company must really love you, Jazz. He laughed. You have no idea. No, I didn't. Later that night, after he fell asleep, I quietly slipped out of bed. His jacket was hanging in the hallway. I wasn't proud of what I was about to do, Jazz. But trust had already been broken. All I wanted now was the truth. Inside one pocket, I found receipts, coffee, parking, gas, nothing unusual. Then another receipt caught my eye. Jazz. A small hotel across town. 2 dinners, 2 desserts, 1 room reservation. My heart sank. The date was 3 weeks earlier. Jazz. The exact weekend Daniel had told me he was attending a sales conference. There had never been a conference. Jazz. I folded the receipt carefully and slipped it back into the pocket, exactly as I had found it. I didn't want him to know I was looking. Not yet. The next morning, Daniel left earlier than usual. Jazz. As soon as the front door closed, I opened my laptop. I searched for the hotel. It wasn't near his office. It wasn't even in the business district. It was known as a quiet getaway for couples. Jazz. I stared at the screen. The evidence was beginning to pile up, but something still didn't make sense. Daniel was careful. Too careful. If he had been hiding another relationship for months, Jazz, why leave a receipt in his jacket? Was he getting careless? Or was there something even bigger that I hadn't seen? That afternoon, my phone rang again. The number was unfamiliar. Jazz, I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. Hello? A woman spoke softly. Is this Emma Carter? Yes. There was a pause. I think we need to talk. My stomach tightened. Who is this? Jazz. My name is Olivia. Silence, then she said 7 words that changed everything. I didn't know Daniel was married. The room began to spin. I grabbed the edge of the table to steady myself. Jazz. Olivia sounded nervous. I found your wedding picture online this morning, she continued. He told me he was divorced 2 years ago. I closed my eyes. Every excuse, every late night, Jazz. Every business trip, every lie. They all crashed into me at once, but Olivia wasn't finished. There are things you deserve to know. I swallowed hard. What things? She took a deep breath. Jazz. I don't think either of us knows the whole truth. At that moment, I realized this story wasn't just about an affair.